goes to the Chicago Bears, the last team that Pete Prisco is grading here, and it's the Bears getting a D. They did not have a first-round pick. They did get Kyler Gordon, the cornerback out of Washington, who Ryan had him in the top first round of his mock quite a bit, Pete. Why did you dislike what Chicago did so much?
No, I like that pick. I really do. I think Kyler Gordon's a good player. I would have taken Kyler Gordon ahead of Trent McDuffie, who went much earlier. So I'm okay with that. Here's my problem. The right side of their offensive line, Dakota Dozier, Larry Borum, that's not a good right side of an offensive line. It's okay, but you need to get better. And they waited too long to take an offensive lineman. That's my real problem with this draft. They didn't get any weapons either on the outside. When you look at it, Velus Jones is more of a return man at Tennessee than receiver. So you really help your young quarterback. These drafts, when you have a young quarterback, have to be about developing that young quarterback. I get it. They needed a corner. I'm fine with that. But did you really need the safety? You could have gone in a different direction there. I didn't love their draft at all. That's why they ended up with the D. And it's cakes. It's the icing on the cake. You pick the punter.
Ryan Poles did say after the draft, Pete, that the reason that they went with Kyler Gordon and then Jaquan Brisker was because that's how their draft board fell. And I know you'll sometimes criticize teams for picking beyond their means, and Poles didn't do that. But to your point, the offense isn't any better, and I'm sure that the quarterback, Justin Fields, was wondering when they were going to get a wide receiver. When they finally took one in Velus Jones, he's 25 years old, and while he was good at Tennessee, he wasn't lights out great, and he only had that sort of caught on late at the Senior Bowl. So I think he'll be an effective player. I think he'll do some good things, but he's not a game-changing talent. I love the additions they made in those first two picks, but as Pete has pointed out, the team's not better offensively, and that was hard to watch at times last year under Matt Nagy.
Well, look, clearly this is what you do when you're a general manager in the NFC North. You just do not draft wide receivers that high in the draft. You do not help out your quarterback in that regard, right? Haven't we seen that with the Green Bay Packers for a couple decades now? In all seriousness, I think if you stop the draft after their first three picks, I would have given this draft an A. They didn't have a first-round pick, but you get first-round value in a guy like Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon. You look at Jaquan Brisker. He was one of the better playmaking safeties in this year's draft class. Great vision on quarterbacks, dropping into coverage, kind of a ball hawk type guy who is a good tackler in open field. So I love that pick for their defense. And then Velus Jones, I think his best football is still ahead of him. Couldn't catch on really at USC quite the same way he did with making big plays down the field at Tennessee. But he's very raw. And I still think his best play is ahead of him. But he's not drafted to really be a number one guy. He's more of a complement to that. So clearly there's some concern about Pete has about their offensive line, playmaking, building, all of that. But you draft what you draft. And Ryan Poles, this is his first time doing it. He'll get more cracks at it. But it's one of the reasons why Chicago Bears have largely struggled, as no one knows better than Chris Hassel, our host here.
Yes, lifelong Bears fan, and
Hey, Chris.
yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Chris, real quick. After this draft, Justin Fields probably will scrub his social media posts from all Chicago Bears references.
Hey, Pete, don't go anywhere.
Isn't that the trend nowadays?
Yeah, Pete, don't go anywhere because I think Randy just called us. You're going to have to do a breaking hit after this in preparation for that. So I wouldn't leave the camera.
Pete, what's up, man? I mean, Ryan Wilson's already got his first mock out for next year. When's yours coming?
Can I pick it apart? Can I pick his mock apart? No.
Yeah, why don't you come on Wednesday? We'll do the 4 to 5 hour on Wednesday where you just break down Ryan's mock.
That's fantasy football. It's fantasy football Wednesday.
Well, tomorrow it's Pete Prisco's power ranking.
That's right.
So we'll get you then. Fellas, thank you. Let's look at the worst grades handed out by Pete Prisco for the draft. The Bears getting the only D. And it's a solid D. He said Colts were close to a D, but it's a C- for the Colts, Panthers, Cardinals, and Patriots. The best grade given to the Baltimore Ravens, an A+. Pick Six podcast with Will Brinson. Oh, Will Brinson's going to be busy on HQ these next few weeks with Pete Prisco, taking some time off. Will Brinson, joined by his cast of characters, including Ryan Wilson, John Breach, and others. Pick Six podcast. Download and follow wherever you get your audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.